This is the Off-Grid Knives Black Stallion. Now, when I was a kid, there was a movie called The Black Stallion, and when I spoke to Kerry of Off-Grid Knives, the man who designed this knife, we came to the conclusion that we were about the same age, and I forgot to ask him if this is named after that Black Stallion. But in any case, here it is. Look at this thing. It's a giant and yet small and slender and discreet Wharncliffe Sheepsfoot, just hell of a work knife. I say work knife, but I mean, you could also carry this as a hell of a tactical knife in the vein of the Yojimbo, with that straight edge and that robust point. I mean, this is, yeah, this thing is awesome. So Off-Grid Knives, they have a couple of different tiers of production, and this is on its more budget-minded line. Right now, I happen to be carrying one of their elite line, this knife. This is the Scorpion, which I'm crazy about. I love this knife. I've been carrying it a lot, and a lot more frequently than I carry any knives. I'm usually switching up every day, but I've been carrying that like on a more daily basis. Love that knife. Anyway, that was produced by Knife Company. This is in a more budget-minded line, and this is produced by Bestech. And if you've ever experienced Bestech, which I'm sure you probably have, you know that they know their way around a knife factory, and they know how to put together an awesome knife. And that's exactly what they did to Kerry's specs here. So speaking of specs, I'm not sure how much it weighs, but it's decent. How's that for you? 1, 2, 3, and I don't know, 3.6, 3.7 inch blade with about a 3.5 inch cutting edge. This thing, part of its charm is its broadness. Look at that. It's an 1.5 inches wide, that blade. 1.5 inches wide, like exactly, pretty much. And therefore, so is the whole print. I mean, right here, it's a little bit wider, actually. So it's kind of a wide and broad knife, but let me tell you about one of the real benefits of that is you can choose a relatively thin blade stock and do a saber grind, not even have to go all the way up and do full flat grind. Saber grind half the way to the top and half the way to the spine, and you have a very thin and slicey blade by the time you get to this edge, without having to go, you know, too super drastic and make a very thin blade. So I mean, this thing is a robust work blade, but it's very thin behind the edge and well, thin enough behind the edge and sharp. Now you say, Bob, you never talk thin behind the edge, and I don't much, but I get the concept when I feel it on certain knives. And I definitely feel it on this when you're slicing through things. There's a lot less resistance right behind that sharp edge. And I think that that's a function of the broadness of this blade and the thinness of the stock, which is quite lovely. And as you can see, it's D2. Just recently put a little bit of lube on there. And actually, since I have it up close, take a look at that milling. I love that. This G10, just imagine doing that by hand, how that would drive you nuts. But look at how beautiful that is. I just really love that. And without being aggressive or particularly nasty on the pants, it's very grippy. And now imagine each one of these little cups, when it gets wet, being like a little suction cup on your hand, sort of. This thing will stay in your hand. I don't know what else I'm trying to say. I mean, it's got great ergonomics, but this pocketing, I love it. I love it. And while I'm talking, I'm thinking this would be great for winter. A, for gloves, because it's big and it's not going to get lost in the feeling of big gloved hands. But also, this texture is going to stick right with you there. Yeah. Anyway, so this knife, as you can see, has that perfectly straight Wharncliffe or Sheepsfoot edge, which is so extremely useful in not only utility, this kind of cutting, but also for slice cutting. And I've been using Wharncliffe's for food prep knives only incidentally for a long time when I have them at work and I'm preparing something. And this with the setup with the knuckles, it's not like you can do any sort of rock and cut, but you can do a good bit of let's call it cafeteria food prep. If you have the cutting board kind of more towards the edge of the counter, you're going to get a lot of great cutting with that. But that's not what this is for. Clearly, that's not what this is for. It's also not really for this, but I love it like this. Yeah, that would make a good self-defense knife. So let me just show you some of the knives it reminds me of. I mentioned the Yojimbo 2. This is kind of in the same camp. This is my only other Bestech, and it's also a straight-edged Wharncliffe, or almost straight-edge. It has a tiniest sort of ascent to the tip. This is the Todd Brothers designed malware by Todd Knife and Tool. Bigger, but this is a great stablemate to the Black Stallion. Just knowing that they are from the same manufacturer and they're both of the same like rockin' quality, but also they're opposite spectrums of the same concept. The sort of long, thin, slicey, straight-edged knife. This one is featherweight. There's all sorts. It's titanium. There's all sorts of weight relief on the inside, just long pockets relieved out of there. You got that big hole there. It's a thin blade. It's small. And then this is just like the exact opposite. This is the guy who shows up and says, he wants his money, and this is the guy who's standing behind him. So yeah, this is a hell of a bruiser, but they're a study in contrast, but by the same manufacturer. BJ Hill gave me this knife, and it reminds me a lot of this knife, even though it's the less angular, more organic analog. That super broad blade again. This one is a little bit thicker on the stock. This is the Roach, by the way. Matt Degnan, I think. Did he design that? Yeah. But you have a much higher grind, and it results in the same thing. Just super thin, slicey blade. So these things kind of remind me of one another. This, the 0200 by ZT, also very reminiscent, and actually even more so the 300 series, but I don't have any of those from ZT. Especially the sort of broad flat handle. This one is a little bit, well, this one is contoured. But all the super milling, all the super intricate milling in the G10, to me it adds like, I don't know, it just adds something, adds value other than the grip that you get from it. I look at it and I'm like, ooh, someone spent time and energy or machine time and energy coming up with a pattern and actually milling it in. It's like I used to have the ZT 0562, the Hinderer, and it was milled on both sides, the titanium side and the G10 side, and so intricately and so beautifully. And that was one of the reasons I held onto it for a long time. The blade was kind of jacked up on mine, but I held onto it for that handle, that milled handle. And this to me, and it is really awesome and takes great advantage of just a thin, flat piece of G10. The way that's milled, it's like a luxury item. Next, Wharncliffe I've been carrying a lot this year. This is the DLT exclusive no choil XM18. Look at that. It's cute. It's just so much smaller. God, this is the first time I'm looking at them together. But same concept, same weight. Just a much bigger knife. So yeah, and then for just some size comparisons here. Oh, my mouth is so dry. I should have taken a sip of water before I started this. So there you have the Ritter RSK from Hogue, and you have the Spyderco Paramilitary 2, and this is the same basically as a large size Griptilian. So very much, if you like that size, very much in the same ballpark as these two knives. However, you know, you just have to get behind the fact that this thing is a workhorse. I mean, this is a monster workhorse, and I guess that's why it's called the Black Stallion. Hey, maybe we're coming full circle, but this is the kind of knife. Let me put it to you this way: I had I work in film and not in film. I work in television, and I had a big shoot recently that I knew I was going to be using a knife. I knew I was going to need it for materials and for cutting cordage and webbing and other stuff. And I brought this along, and it was perfect. And of course, I got a lot of, oh, of course, you've got the coolest knife and all this. I got a lot of comments on it. But this is the kind of thing I'm going to bring to a work situation from now on, because it's big and capable, but it's also just like classy and different, and it's got that element of menace I always look for. And plus, it's got that Viking thing too with the blade shape. So yeah, beautiful action, and I really like the way this diminutive flipper hides under the finger guard there, and then your thumb lands on the jimping, and you're good to go. So this is the Off-Grid Knives Black Stallion. Designed in California by our friend Carrie. Check them out, episode 164 of the Knife Junkie podcast, and learn all about the off-grid story. And then this one is manufactured by Bestech across the pond there. So there you have it. Thanks for watching.